Here it is, the new AMG GT Pro. For the moment it's only like this, a little preview. Today I can't drive it, but a test driver from the Affalterbach company will drive it. However, before that, let me show it to you live. After the Goodwood presentation, we finally get to put our big hands on it a little bit too, by showing you what the differences are compared to a normal AMG GT, not only from an aesthetic point of view, but also from an aerodynamic point of view, also from a technical point of view. It is a more technical object compared to a normal AMG GT. A lot of components have been revised to allow this car to be more performing, starting from the aerodynamics. Here on the front you see it much more machined in the side parts. There is a different cooling for the 612 horsepower engine, so it grows compared to the AMG GT. But compared to the old AMG GT Pro, the engine that keeps the same technical base is customized in terms of traction issues, because there is no longer only rear wheel drive, but also in the GT Pro we find the all-wheel drive, which is one of the flagships not only of the SL but also of the AMG GT. So an object aesthetically that I find very beautiful. The rear end, I find it beautiful, almost banditsque as far as especially the center line is concerned. But as far as the front end is concerned, maybe they could have exaggerated a little bit more in the cut of the headlights. Even maybe the SL is a little bit meaner than this AMG GT Pro, which is very kind though. However, it is a very balanced car, and that was thought, compared to the previous one, to be more GT than a sports car. So clearly also the reflection on the GT Pro, I can imagine, but then we will see it on the track, is also reflected on a little bit less sharp driving, however perhaps more appropriate for all situations, starting from the fact that it finds its place, the all-wheel drive, to clearly then arrive to the dimensions of the car that are much more generous and clearly much more oriented to allow the object to have more onboard comfort, but also an ability to move, for example, in the rain, with snow, or in any case in extreme road situations that can clearly be faced more lightheartedly than with the old GT or even with the old GT Pro. Clearly matrix digital light headlights of all kinds, but obviously also an equipment, as I told you, technical, with dedicated shock absorbers, but also the top in terms of the possibilities offered by the technique. So 6-piston braking system with carboceramic disc. You see it beautiful from an aesthetic point of view, but clearly also able to brake this machine that weighs 1,900 kilos more or less. This is the weight of the car that has not yet been declared, but anyway we are between 1,008 and 1,009, with obviously a lot of power, 612 horsepower, 850 newtons per meter of maximum torque that are dumped on the ground precisely by the all-wheel drive, which here on the rear axle also uses torque vectoring to spread the torque between the right axle, between the right side and the left side, and clearly allow you to have a very good distribution of what are the torque values on all axles, on both axles. Nice, the braking unit, also the rear one, here too made of carboceramic with a caliper. You see it floating, it's aggressive, especially this view where you see a part of the wheel coming out of the bodywork. They care so much about the aesthetics of this car compared to the old GT. I would say they have made a very noticeable leap forward. With all that, I repeat, the previous one maybe was a little more edgy in terms of some sporty solutions, while this one is a little more elegant, a little bit more refined. It's clearly more appropriate for an audience that at 360 degrees can use a machine that nevertheless has very noticeable performance. Beautiful headlight clusters that tend to stand out. You see it compared to the headlight cluster itself. The spoiler that can also be adopted by other cars from the house of Affalterbach. However, it finds its place here as standard. While as far as the interior is concerned, let me open the hatch. Look at that crazy good space. As far as the trunk is concerned, with the ability to also access the inner trunk, so the liters become more than 700 with a small cockpit. Well, also here below, look at it, a little small. However, a trunk that really makes a difference compared to the previous AMG GT, precisely because this car was designed to move at 360 degrees in environments that are not only the most sporty ones, but also those of everyday use. So much so that in addition to the leather above, below, and also clearly the microfiber here in the side, what makes the difference from the point of view, in my opinion, of life of the AMG GT would be the space that is here in the back, that here has been eliminated for weight issues, and also because, let's say, on the GT Pro there is no need for the seats, But if you want on the AMG GT, also on the S Performance, there are the 2 seats back with as much as an ISOFIX attachment, racing seats as far as the part of clearly the seating, with the side rails, with the microfiber and the red stitched leather, the sports steering wheel with all the cruise control and safety elements on the left side, and multimedia on the right side. And then as far as the central part is concerned, let me start the instrumentation of this pseudo prototype. Instrumentation clearly full digital, MBX here installed in the center, dashboard also here human leather, and also Alcantara made from employees, jokes aside. However, instead possibility of customization regarding driving dynamics with sport, race, sport plus, obviously individual, comfort, and also an ice mode that can be used to obviously go to cope, as I said before, with situations that may be a little bit more unpleasant to experience with the previous generation of the AMG GT. Electronically controlled shock absorbers that can be set to comfort, sport, and sport plus. Traction control clearly deactivatable, plus also from here the ability to go and select all the elements that you need. And then the MBX, you see it today, we are here in Immendingen. Look at that beautiful track, a Mercedes proving ground, a former military area customized, let's say, by Mercedes, with different possibilities to test the cars, including the one that I'm going to experience now aboard this AMG GT. And here we are at Immendingen track with the GT Pro. I'm not driving, however, someone else is driving very good. It's a track that is very reminiscent of the Nordschleife. I'm on board for the moment with a Mercedes test driver who, I have to say, knows the track very well, but it seems to me that he also knows the GT Pro very well, that travels with 612 horsepower, 850 Ns of maximum torque. Give it that gas, go, beautiful, too good track, great ups and downs. Clearly it's a track that puts a strain on even a car of this kind, given and considered that it weighs quite a lot, because we are around 1,900 kilograms, clearly with performance that is very noticeable. It also tends to be slightly oversteering. This is a very interesting element for a car that, however, travels with all-wheel drive. So in fact it is an object that unloads to the ground the very large, what is its torque, and yet precisely manages to be quite natural in expressing performance, precisely because it is predominantly rear, and then it pushes forward. So compared to the E-Performance, you can feel some difference in the thrust. The electric clearly helps in the longitudinal phase, but it gives the idea of working much better in terms of lateral and also braking phases. It is also much purer than the E-Performance in transferring loads of work, certainly compared to the previous GT. This one feels to be a little less sharp than the previous GT Pro. A little less sharp, however, it gives the idea of being, first of all, much more comfortable, much more concrete from an overall point of view in terms of machine. The previous one looked more like a road racing car than a GT for everyday use, while here we have a very, very concrete car that, however, if she wants, she can definitely take out her claws. Nice, go. The tires are warming up quite well. Now we start to work, I would say, pretty good. A little bit of understeer. On the rear, the car is starting to push back. The all-wheel drive is helping her so much as far as the E-Performance part is concerned. It certainly allows her to unload well the 612 horsepower of this V8 that has a very fast transmission. And although it's a pseudo torque converter, because there's actually no real converter, there's a clutch in an oil bath that works in place of the torque converter to ensure this gearbox to be a little bit drier. However, clearly it's still plesiocolloidal as far as how it works. Beautiful though, really great car, wonderful. The braking also, I would say, very well with this remarkable braking system that does not give the idea of fatigue. In fact, in spite of the speed that you reach, we're at 200 km/h right now. 220 like nothing, just easy peasy. Beautiful. Insane. You pass well even on the curbs. Car that I find definitely very comfortable, with a less precise chassis undoubtedly than the previous one, but overall more, I would say, comfortable definitely at 300 degrees even for road use, probably more than the previous one. Track use of the old one definitely goes harder, sharper, more determined. This as a whole is a car that can be maybe a little bit rounded and more harmonious, especially also considering the space it carries, the trunk it carries, and also all the elements that allow it to be a special object, perhaps closer to the 911 than in the past, but this is not definitely a flaw. Thank you. Beautiful. And here we are, test finished. There is still no list price of this AMG GT Pro. However, I enjoyed it. It is less edgy than the previous one, as I imagined. Less edgy, however, it is very performance oriented. Probably if we go to take the lap time of this new version, I think you turn faster with this one, also by virtue of the all-wheel drive. However, the feeling it leaves you with is that of a more racing car than this one, which however has a beautiful sound, has a beautiful acceleration, a great engine, and precisely is much safer in so many situations than anything you could experience with the previous AMG GT. Price will surely be above 250,000 bucks, but in my opinion is worth them all. With this, I'm done. All it remains for me is to invite you to comment below. Long live the passion for the cars and full gas, like so, always. Ciao.